Did Lady Olenna's big moment foreshadow Cersei becoming the Mad Queen? All right, as per usual, let's just get the spoiler warning out of the way. There you go. Last night's Game of Thrones was another heartbreaker as the final rose was plucked from the Tyrell garden. Lady Olenna's sharp tongue and take-no-shit attitude made her a longtime favorite for fans of the show, and watching her down that poison was harder for some than all the Red Weddings and Hodors combined. I am in that group. I almost cried until she dropped some mad shit. Luckily, the Queen of Thorns lived up to her name even in her final moments as she used her last words to hit Jaime Lannister with a few last devastating barbs, giving him her real opinion of his beloved sister and dropping the bomb that she was the one responsible for Joffrey's death. If mics existed in Game of Thrones, Olenna could have dropped a couple of them right before she ended up dropping dead. But as much as we wanted to give her death diss a big round of applause, we couldn't, because we were too busy dissecting it, looking for clues about what to expect for the rest of the season, and there are a bunch of them. In fact, hidden amongst all the insults and nasty language you wish your grandmother was cool enough to use, there was some foreshadowing to Season 7's biggest plot twist yet, Cersei's ascension to Mad Queen. Sure, the Lady of Casterly Rock hasn't exactly been stable since taking the Iron Throne, or really ever. But now it looks like she may be embarking on a royal reign that will make Aerys Targaryen seem pretty chill in comparison. So before we get into what Lady Olenna says before she died, let's talk about how she died. Now, Jaime tells her that Cersei had a few extremely gruesome fates in store for her, including being flayed alive and getting beheaded in the streets. Fortunately, he managed to talk his sister down to a more dignified poisoning. But already we're seeing a tear happening between the two incestuous siblings. Cersei's sadistic side is completely unchecked, while Jaime's is almost non-existent. It's something we see played out earlier in the episode as well, when Cersei delights in figuring out the single most agonizing way to punish Ellaria Sand for murdering her daughter. And wouldn't you know it, her devised method harkens back to one of the Mad King's most infamous kills. Now, when Aerys cooked Ned Stark's father, Rickard Stark, alive in his armor, he also put a chain leash around Brandon Stark's neck. Now, the younger Stark then choked himself to death, struggling to save his father. And while that scene has never actually been shown in the show, Joanna Robinson over at Vanity Fair has helpfully pointed out that they did film it as a flashback and then abandoned it way back in the second episode of the entire series. But snippets of it have appeared since then, and it's a scene that bears a striking resemblance to the one in the King's Landing dungeon last night, when Ellaria and her daughter struggle to reach each other, bound back by chains, putting them just out of each other's reach. And it's probably also worth mentioning that Aerys used wildfire to cook the Elder Stark, a weapon Cersei has already shown a penchant for when she took out the Sept of Baelor last season. And let's not forget that watching the way Aerys would cruelly kill his subjects is what led Jaime to eventually murder the Mad King and earn his reputation as the Kingslayer. And if Cersei is going down the exact same road, it's hard not to imagine that Jaime will end up having a very similar reaction. Of course, Aerys and Jaime never had the same family ties as Cersei and Jaime, so that could certainly spare her for a while, but another family connection could also doom her, namely the one between Jaime and Tyrion. Now, Lady Olenna capped off her death note last night by letting Jaime know that she was the one responsible for Joffrey's death, not Tyrion, so there's a good chance that he'll take that info back to Cersei and ask her to forgive their little brother. And there's an even better chance that she'll flat out refuse to believe him. Jaime may be able to let a lot of things slide for Cersei, but continually condemning Tyrion for a crime that he never committed may be a step too far even for him. As for the rest of what Lady Tyrell had to say, well, it was a lot of language that drew a pretty strong parallel between the current queen and the former Mad King, calling her a disease and a monster, to which Jaime even admits that a lot of other people probably feel the exact same way. But she also mentions that she will be the end of him, which has us wondering if the Mad Queen could stay in power longer than we thought. Now, conventional wisdom is that Jaime will end up killing Cersei, but what if that's wrong? What if Lady Olenna is right and Cersei actually ends up killing Jaime for his inability to get on board her crazy train? But what do you folks think? Is Cersei really on her way to being the Mad Queen? Could she outlive Jaime? And what brother will she bang if Jaime dies? I mean, we're coming down to, one. Let's discuss. And that's even if he is an actual blood relative. The coffers are thin. And if you haven't gotten enough Game of Thrones, be sure to check out our live after show, All Kings Considered. We break down the latest episode, dissect the theories, and predict what's next for the Seven Kingdoms. You can catch it every Monday at 1 p.m. PST on YouTube or ProjectAlpha.com.